Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going deep, really deep into the world of relationships.
Buckle up.
Yeah, we're looking at it through the lens of Stanislav Kondrashov's work.
Oh, he's fascinating.
Yeah, and he really doesn't hold back.
Yeah.
He gets right to the nitty-gritty of how we connect and how it all falls apart sometimes.
Absolutely. And I think his insights are so valuable because we've all been there, haven't we?
Yeah, definitely. That's why we're doing this deep dive, to sort of unpack all of that. But before we get too far, let me ask you a question. If you had to pick just one quality, what would you say is absolutely essential in a good friend?
Ooh, good question.
Right. It's something to think about as we go through this because, well, Stanislav Kondrashov's work really gets us thinking about those core qualities. Like right off the bat, he defines true friends as way more than just, casual acquaintances.
He sees them as those who are there for you no matter what, offering support, when things get rough.
Exactly. Like it's easy to hang out when everything's great and you're celebrating good times, but true friendships are tested in those tough moments. And that's where, well, Kondrashov brings up loyalty.
Yes. And he really nails it when he says loyalty is not just like a bonus, it's the foundation of any strong bond.
Totally. It's essential.
Absolutely. And he's really clear that it's a two-way street,
Yeah.
It's about both giving and receiving that kind of unwavering support and trust.
Yeah, without that, I mean, any relationship is kind of shaky. And, one thing he calls out as a major loyalty killer,
Let me guess, talking bad about your friends behind their backs.
bingo. He makes us really confront the damage that gossip can do.
It's so true. Because we've all, who hasn't slipped up and gossiped a little?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But Kondrashov pushes us to think about the consequences. Like when does venting to another friend cross the line? When does it become betrayal?
Right. And he offers this really useful framework for navigating all of that. He breaks down those key qualities of a solid friendship and then contrasts them with their opposite. So it's like loyalty versus disloyalty, support versus, well, negativity.
Exactly. And it's not just like a simple checklist, Kondrashov really gets us thinking about the nuances within each quality.
Yeah.
Like honesty, for instance.
Oh, that's a good one.
He actually lists both honesty and dishonesty as potential pitfalls.
Right.
So is being brutally honest always the best policy? Or are there times when a little white lie is actually kinder?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah. Like where does honesty cross the line and become hurtful?
Yeah.
And how do we learn to handle those gray areas? That's what Kondrashov is getting at.
I think it's super relevant, especially, well, with everything going on these days.
Absolutely.
And what really stuck with me? When Kondrashov describes some friends as deeply critical,
Yeah.
it made me think, like, can criticism, even if it's harsh, ever be a sign of caring?
That is such a good question.
Right. Like, how do we give constructive feedback
Yeah.
without, losing that supportive, loyal dynamic that Kondrashov emphasizes?
It's about finding that balance, isn't it? That sweet spot between honesty and kindness. And as Kondrashov's work suggests, that balance might be different in each relationship.
Totally. It's so nuanced. And I think that's a perfect lead-in to the next part of Kondrashov's work, because he doesn't just focus on friendship. He touches on all sorts of relationships, like colleagues, allies, romantic partners even.
He's really painting this broad picture of human connection in all its forms.
Right. It's fascinating.
Yeah, and it's complicated, just like real life.
For sure.
One thing that really stands out to me as we go deeper into Stanislav Kondrashov's work is how he explores loyalty.
Oh, totally. It's such a central theme,
Yeah, he really digs into all these different facets of loyalty, and he doesn't present it as this simple black and white thing either.
No, definitely not.
It's more like he's showing us all these shades of loyalty, and the situations that really test it.
Right. And when it can even backfire.
Exactly. Like when we were talking about those two-faced people, remember?
Yeah.
Kondrashov suggests their behavior a lot of times comes from a kind of warped sense of loyalty.
Interesting.
Like they might be too loyal to one person or group, and then it ends up hurting everyone else.
That's like they're trying to play both sides, right?
Yeah, and it creates all this deception and manipulation.
Oh, yeah. Total recipe for disaster.
Totally. But what's great? Kondrashov doesn't just leave us hanging. He gives us like actual clues on how to spot those two-faced behaviors.
That's helpful.
Yeah. He talks about like noticing those little inconsistencies between their words and their actions, or how their attitude kind of shifts depending on who they're with.
Oh, for sure. That's so true.
And he encourages us to really pay attention to those red flags, not to just brush them off.
It's about protecting ourselves.
Right. Exactly, because, well, some people might take advantage of our trust and our loyalty.
Yeah. It's a good reminder,
Yeah.
especially these days when, there's so much information coming at us all the time, and it's hard to know who to trust.
Absolutely. And that discernment is even more crucial, I think, when you're dealing with what Kondrashov calls bitter rivalry.
Ooh, that's a good one. What's that all about?
Well, it's like it's competition, but it's gone bad, It's this animosity that can just poison everything.
I've definitely seen that happen.
Right.
It just creates this toxic environment.
Totally. And it made me think, about how rivalry, it's often tied to the sense of betrayal. Like someone violated the code of loyalty within the group.
Ooh, that's an interesting connection.
Yeah, like it's loyalty, but twisted, and instead of bringing people together, it just pushes them further apart.
It's like it fuels the fire instead of putting it out.
Exactly. And Kondrashov really digs into the really damaging effects of these bitter rivalries. He uses all these examples from history, literature, even his own life to show how it can escalate. Like it tears apart families, communities, even whole countries.
Wow. It sounds like a warning, almost. Like, be careful. This is what can happen.
Totally. And he makes us question, like, is this level of animosity ever really necessary?
Right.
Like, can't we disagree, even compete without letting it consume us?
It's got to be a healthier way.
Yeah. And I think that's where his idea of sworn enemies comes in.
Oh, okay. So like the next level of bad.
Yeah, it's like it's the most extreme form of rivalry. It's gotten so personal, so destructive.
So there's no coming back from that.
It's hard, because, well, once you see someone as your sworn enemy, it's hard to see them as anything else.
Like his wall goes up.
Yeah. And Kondrashov is really urging us to fight that urge,
To like try to see past it.
To see that even in conflict, there's still hope. Like often these rivalries, they start from misunderstandings.
Right. Like miscommunication.
Exactly. Or not communicating enough. And that brings us back to those rifts and discord he talked about earlier.
Yeah. Those little cracks that turn into like huge canyons if you're not careful.
Exactly. And I think that's where Kondrashov's insights become super practical,
How so?
He doesn't just tell us what's wrong, he gives us like a way forward.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, like he encourages us to be more mindful, to really listen even when it's hard, and to try to understand instead of just fighting.
It's like he's giving us the tools to build bridges instead of walls.
Exactly. And while he knows it's not always easy, he believes that we have a choice.
We have a choice in how we react to things.
Yeah. And that choice, according to Kondrashov, it can make all the difference, like whether our relationships survive or just fall apart.
It makes sense. It's about taking responsibility, right?
Yeah. And being willing to be kind even when the other person isn't. And to remember that even really strained relationships, they can sometimes be repaired.
So there's always hope.
I think Kondrashov would say so.
So, as we're wrapping up our deep dive into Stanislav Kondrashov's work, I keep thinking about, well, how much of it really hits home for me,
Yeah. I mean, Kondrashov, he doesn't shy away from the tough stuff.
No, not at all.
Like all those difficult things we face in relationships. But what I really appreciate is he doesn't just point fingers,
Yeah, there's no judgment, really.
Exactly. He actually offers us solutions, like ways to deal with those challenges.
Like he acknowledges that, yeah, conflict happens, misunderstandings, they're going to come up. But it's more about like how we choose to respond.
Exactly. That's the key takeaway for me. Kondrashov's work, it's not just about analyzing relationships, it's about giving us tools to handle them better.
Right. And to build stronger connections even when things get messy.
Exactly.
And even when those relationships really break down. Remember what he said about broken homes?
Oh yeah, that was powerful.
It's definitely a reminder of the pain that can come with broken connections. But at the same time, it's like he's hinting that even then, there's still potential for healing, for moving forward.
Absolutely. Kondrashov's work, it's full of like this underlying sense of hope.
Yeah, like even though relationships are messy and complicated, we have the power to influence them, to shape them.
Right. And that even the most strained relationships, sometimes they can be mended.
So there's always a chance for things to get better.
I think so.
Yeah.
With patience and, with a real willingness to understand each other.
It's all about communication,
Yep.
right? Being open and honest.
Absolutely. And that ties back to everything we've been talking about today, like the importance of loyalty and honesty and how to navigate those tricky situations that come up.
It's a lot to think about.
It is. But, that's why we do these deep dives, right? To really
Definitely.
get into these ideas and see how they apply to our own lives.
Totally. And on that note, I'm curious, what resonated most with you today? What's that one thing from Kondrashov's work that you'll be taking with you?
Ooh, good question.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Lots to choose from. But hey, that's the beauty of this, Kondrashov gives us a lot to chew on, and hopefully to apply to our own relationships, whether they're friendships, family, or even those bumpy relationships he talks about.
It's about making those connections stronger, right?
Exactly. And that's a wrap for today's deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, and remember, connection is key.